Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to episode number 72 of the Five for Fighting podcast. My name is Alec, your host, and this is the show where we focus on the players who drop the gloves and the fans who enjoyed watching them do it. No guest today. I'm happy to say that the podcast is back, though, after my big move to North Carolina. So I figured today we'd kind of do a ECHL kind of year in review episode and discuss, because obviously being up here in North Carolina, and obviously you can tell with the Everblades jersey, I'm no longer at the Everblades games, right? So I figured it'd be kind of fun to do a year in review and kind of my experience as a season ticket holder for the Everblades and kind of go over my thoughts on the ECHL and kind of how it was kind of almost like a resurgence for my love of going to hockey games, if that makes sense to people. But before we get into the episode, of course, I got to mention that the Five for Fighting podcast is a proud member of Six Pack Coverage. Six Pack Coverage is a media group based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm proud to be a member of their team, and they cover many things. If you want to listen to podcasts, they've got podcasts for a bunch of different sports: football, basketball, baseball. They even have wrestling podcasts, so you can go check those out. Obviously, I'm part of the hockey department, if you will, but they also cover fitness, food, travel, collegiate happenings. So lots of great stuff. I encourage you to go check out the website. Actually, that's where this podcast will be posted, is on their YouTube channel. At least the video format. Obviously, the audio format will be out here in Apple, Spotify, Google Play, whatever the case is. But I encourage you to go check out the YouTube channel. So if you're watching, go click Six Pack Coverage and check out some other stuff if you're interested. They got a lot of great stuff going on. So I encourage you to check out Six Pack Coverage. And of course, I got to mention the other enforcer-ish tough guy podcast is Darren over at the Fourth Line Voice. He actually just had his 200th episode. So congratulations to Darren. I remember listening to his show back when it was on YouTube, which is crazy. And I was telling him that the other day, actually funny, I found out about it when I was up here in North Carolina. That was way back when I was still in the military. And I was actually driving to pick up my wife for the first time at the airport. Wow, it makes me feel really old now that I'm really just thinking about it now. Holy shit. But you had it on YouTube. It was before it was even on any, Spotify, iTunes, anything like that. It was always on YouTube. You had, I think, 3 or 4 episodes out, and out of nowhere, they just got wiped out. So I don't know exactly what happened with it, but yeah, he had his original episodes up on YouTube and it got shut down, and then ended up coming out with a podcast on, I think it was iTunes is where I heard it first. But he ended up coming out with that, and he's been going at it ever since. Well, he had one little hiccup where his website got shut down and everything got hacked and he was done. But the boys out at the Hockey Podcast Network, resurrected it and got a hold of Darren, and he's back now. And he did his From the Vault. So all of his previous episodes that he had done in years past were up on the new Fourth Line Voice that was a partner with the Hockey Podcast Network. And he just had his 200th episode, and he had on a bunch of different people, bunch of different, hockey fans. I think maybe even a couple players, I think. Excuse me. I just got done listening to not even like the first maybe 30 minutes of one. I got a big drive tomorrow out to Greensboro. So that will be kind of when I do the really big listen to the podcast and kind of get into it. But so congratulations to Darren. He's had some great guests on in terms of tough guys and enforcers. Steve McIntyre, John Morasti, Joey Tedorenko, Clark Wilm, Mike McWilliam, Josh Mazer. The list goes on, and he's provided me with hours of entertainment. Normally, I give Darren shit here at the beginning, but congratulations to 200 episodes, man. I'm still working on getting to 100 here. So the trials and tribulations, as I've moved like 3 times while doing this podcast, it's nuts now that I think about it. So that'll hold me back, and then I actually stopped doing the podcast for quite a few months. But seriously, man, congratulations to 200 episodes, and hoping to hear, like you said, maybe 200 more. We'll see how long you can do it, because believe me, if folks don't see everything behind the scenes with podcasting, but it is the trials and tribulations sometimes. Like right now, such a dry spell for guests. Although I will say, once the ECHL season is over and the playoffs are over, I do have a couple irons in the fire. So hopefully I can get some good ECHL hockey guests on, and tough guys in that aspect. So hopefully that's where, I can make that happen. I got one hopefully coming on about 2 weeks, because the team he was on was not in the playoffs, unfortunately, but I do plan on having him on. And the other one is, of course, Joe Lazito over at the Coliseum Chronicles, the penalty box. Joe's in the same boat as me, very busy. So he is, he hasn't come out with an episode in a minute, but he has got a great back catalog for ECHL folks tuning into this. You can listen to he's got like a 5-part saga with Trevor Gillies. I believe he had Ross Olson on as well. Another tough dude up with Worcester. And he's had some great guests on. If they've been in the Islanders system, whether it's the Islanders, the AHL team with the Sound Tigers. Well, now it's not even the Sound. I forget what the hell it is. Is it the Bridgeport Islanders now? I think they changed the name, but it was the Sound Tigers, or with Worcester, whoever the ECHL or IHL affiliate was back in the day. Joe has had him on, so I encourage you to go check that out. Also focuses on the tough guys and everything like that. So great guest on over at the Coliseum Chronicles, the penalty box. That is Joe Lazito, everyone. But yeah, so there's the quick shout outs out of the way. I know I take up 5 minutes of your time doing that, but those guys seriously always help the podcast grow and support the podcast. And they've really helped me. There's a lot of times where I might have a guy on and I say, well, I think this, or a guy reaches out to me and I said, well, hey, you should probably go on Darren's show because he'll know more about that. Darren's so much more knowledgeable. Well, both of them are more knowledgeable than I'll ever be in terms of tough guys and enforcers, because I'm late to the game here being 26 years old, but that's no slight to them. Well, yeah, we'll say it, they're fucking old, but no, they've been around the block way a lot longer than I have, and there's no disrespect, of course, but they're far more knowledgeable than I'll ever be in this type of topic and discussion. So like I said, great dudes, so I encourage you to go check out their podcast as well. But I guess we'll get into it here with the whole ECHL season in review. This is, of course, covering the one sec here. Sorry, long day at work. This is the 2021 to 2022 season. And obviously, you can tell by the Everblades jersey, I am a Florida Everblades fan. I've watched them all season. I got into them when my wife and I moved down to Fort Myers last year. The Florida Everblades play in Estero, and they that's about, I don't know, where we were in Fort Myers. That was like 15 minutes down the road from us. So we got into the Florida Everblades. It was it was funny to see how cheap it is compared to the Lightning games. I've been a hockey fan my whole life. Big minor league guy. I've always kind of gravitated towards the minors a lot more. It's just the hockey I grew up on, actually, out in the Quad Cities. So that's kind of the hockey I know. And it was a nice change in tune going to the Everblades games, because up until then I'd gone to the Lightning games. I mean, I barely even watch the NHL anymore. It's just not the same to me. I've always watched hockey. I've watched the NHL. I was a big Lightning fan for the longest time, and now I hardly even watch them. I don't even think I've watched maybe more than 3 or 4 games this year. I went to the outdoor game in Nashville, but that was really more so just to go to Nashville. The game was kind of an afterthought. And so we went around all the different bars and stuff, and I touched on that a while back, but I went down to Fort Myers and I realized that the Everblades were 15 minutes down the road from us. So I said, what the hell, we'll get some season tickets and see what happens. I went in pretty blind. I think it was John from the old Hockey Fight League that kind of told me about the ECHL, and he's like, oh, you got to watch. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm sure it's going to be fucking terrible, blah, blah, blah. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely some stuff we'll get into that I think the league could do better of. And of course, this is just my opinion. You might be thinking, Alec, you're a fucking idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. And that's perfectly fine. That's what I encourage you to tell. I enjoy banter back and forth about disagreeing points of view, as long as it's like cordial and you're not just motherfucking each other and being a complete dickhead, if that makes sense. Because I have had back and forth. It's actually more fun, and it's like, you can learn, school you some knowledge, learn some stuff from each other on it. But yeah, so I was kind of, the ECHL was very slept on by me, and I think a lot of other people actually, and it wasn't brought up to me until like halfway through the year. And they're like, you really brought a lot of light to the ECHL. Like I haven't seen this much coverage of it. Because if you know by the name of the podcast, Five for Fighting Podcast, and you see the YouTube channel, you'll know that I'm the uploader of all the ECHL fights. That's me. I was told it might get shut down, but I think the big thing was, I know last year they were running off of, or not last year, it might've been the year before, they were running off of Nebulon, I think was the name of the broadcaster who showed all the games and everything like that. But now it's Flow Sports. And I think that was the big deal. A lot of people were getting their stuff shut down if they posted any fights. And I think it was because of that Nebulon distributor or, media company, whatever you want to call it. I think that was the reason that everything was getting shut down. So I was like, whatever, we'll see what happens. I'll upload a couple fights, because initially I was going to record every fight, and I did for the most part. I think there was only 1 or 2 that I wasn't able to get to actually at the game. when a fight broke out and I wasn't able to record it. I think one of them was with Alexi and Masella. I think I wasn't able to record that because it happened way behind the play and I kind of wasn't expecting it. So, but I missed that one. But yeah, my goal was to record every fight and, upload it to YouTube, and it was going to be from my personal camera, my phone, right? Everything you can do so much on the damn phones now. But it was going to be from the phone. And once I got Flow Sports, I realized you can go back and watch the games. I'm like, well, fuck, let me go check the box scores. And I started watching all the fights. And then about 2 weeks into the season, I was like, you know what, fuck it. Let me just start uploading fights and we'll see what happens. If the page gets taken down, it gets taken down. It wasn't like I didn't have a bunch of subscribers on YouTube at the time. And I still really don't. It has helped the channel grow astronomically, I will say that. So that's been a lot of fun seeing people get in there, and there's some buffoons in the comment sections here and there, but it's all in good fun. There's some I can tell are just they do it just to get a rouse out of me and get me riled up or whatever, which I really don't, honestly. I just think it's funny when people, they'll just say that something's been a complete one-sided shit kick in, and it's like, well, if you look at the fight, sure, the guy threw more punches, but I don't know how many of them actually landed. And it's a bunch of different stuff. Obviously, being an Everblades fan, I'm a huge Kyle Neuber fan. I don't try to hide that or anything. And I'm definitely I'm fans of all these guys. If you ever watch the fight of Neuber and Nico Blatchman at the at Hertz Arena when I recorded that one on my phone, if you hear, which by the way, I don't know what it was. The Everblades loved to fight when I was like getting after it in the parking lot, because there would be the tailgate days and I would just pack the cooler full of Bush and just get after it in the parking lot. And that was when they liked to fight. So of course I'm yelling like a drunk idiot in the background of the videos, but I was cheering on Nico. And I mean, it wasn't like I was like, oh, fuck you, Neuber. No, it wasn't like that or anything. But it was just, I appreciate the toughness. And it was cool to see Anthony Collins. I was taking pictures of, I got some pictures on my phones of like Anthony Collins when he came to town with Norfolk and stuff like that. So I went into the year kind of, I started doing research on guys. And like I said, I started uploading more. And I think people have started to notice the channel a bit. And I've seen my videos posted around the Travis Howe and Nico Blatchman pregame, stick fight. I use that very, very loosely, obviously, just jawing at each other because Howe was pissing on the South Carolina's lawn there in the pregame skate. So Nico took exception to it, and I think it's great. I love to see that shit. I think that hockey needs more of that. Maybe not every game, but I mean, a couple times a year doesn't hurt. Look how much it blew up. That blew up more than any other video on my channel besides maybe the Panetta and Subban, but of course that blew up for a whole nother reason that we're not going to get into. I already covered that in an episode. If you want to hear about that, go listen to that episode. But the stuff, the fighting and the hits and the pregame shenanigans and stuff, all that stuff gets more clicks than anything. It's crazy. It's funny. Like even with oh man, I think Neuber was going at it with the Thrower brothers in pregame skate one time versus Atlanta, and I got that on video, and people seem to enjoy that stuff too. So it's cool to see what stuff blows up. So that's why I kind of laughed. The ECHL has a 10 fight rule. And I actually just did a poll today on my Instagram, because my Instagram, I think, has a lot of the ECHL follows on it compared to Twitter. Twitter is very weird when it comes to how follows happen. Like I see a lot more ECHL stuff on my Instagram than I do Twitter. But I know quite a few players actually follow the account, and I posted on there, and I'm not going to name names, but you can definitely see who the minority is, and it's not the players who don't like the 10 fight rule. The players, a lot of them don't like it. So you can see maybe some of them want to increase the fight rule to 20, because it's a long season. 72 games is a long season to have just 10 fights, I think. So and some fans might like it, some fans might not, and that's neither here nor there. If you want to ever talk about it, I'm more than welcome to talk about it. I've actually brought it up on a couple of the ECHL pages. I think the main one, I think the one didn't like me posting, I think it was the ECHL fan page. I don't think they liked that I was posting my fight videos there. So everything needed to be, after that, I had to get like post approval, and my shit would never get approved for whatever reason. It's the ECHL fan page. I'm trying to show the fans their player fighting and then get them going. You think it would make sense, but now it's just really the ECHL dashboard, which can be an absolute fucking gong show too. And this will be posted in here, and I'm gonna hopefully promote it in there. Maybe some people will listen from there, but who knows. but I think it is a lot of fun in there. You know, you go back and forth with some folks and you can just see how many like homers there are. And it happens with all teams. I've seen it with the Everblades. I've seen it with, you know, Solar Bears, Comets, Walleye. Every team has fucking homers. It does not matter. It does not matter. And nobody's safe in that group. So it's fun, but it could be a gong show, but it is fun. And, yeah, so this experience though has been great, and I want to actually thank a few people who, when I first came to the Everblades, or excuse me, first came to Fort Myers and kind of signed up as a season ticket holder with the Everblades, that really helped me. And I still talk to them even up here in North Carolina after I left. And you know, probably the biggest one is Tommy Lafleur out there. You know, legendary hockey last name, but no, Tommy's a great dude. He's been a season ticket holder for years, and he really took me under his wing and kind of started showing me the ropes early on when I first got there, and you know, invited me over to his house. We watched it. We had a few watch parties, him and Paula, his wife, both great, fantastic people. So I got to meet them. And like I said, Tommy signed me up for the fan club. It got me in touch with players. That's how I met Nico Blatchman for the first time, was in the locker room. Was it the locker room tour they did? I met Nico there. I got his number. And I told Tommy beforehand, and he was the one who kind of like really nudged me to get Nico's number. Cause I'm like, I don't want to look like a fucking loser coming in here asking, oh yeah, hey, by the way, can you come on my podcast? I feel like it just sounds fucking lame, right? It sounds so fanboyish, but I think at the end of the day, it is a lot of fun talking to these players. And that was another thing. I got to talk to plenty of players, which I'll get into in a sec as well. But Brian, I still message him too. We talk about the lineup and, you know, who's going to go. Oh, and Brian's always checking. Oh, there was some really good fights in this game tonight. Or this guy fought 3 times. I think he was with Fort Wayne the other night. But this guy fought 3 times. Go check that out. And, you know, it's a lot of fun. So I've met some great people out there, and I've even gotten to meet quite a few players going to the season ticket holder events and the what's it called? The fan club events as well. You know, I got to meet some players at that. Like I said, that's how I got to meet Nico Blatchman, was at the fan club thing. And then I think it was the next fan club event at, I think it was an Italian restaurant or something. That's where I met Nuber for the first time and got to talk to him. You know, we text here and there about stuff, and you know, I'm going to get him on hopefully after the off season. There's no pressure, Kyle, if you're listening, but so hopefully I can get Nuber on the show. I got to meet Russell Jordan, Jordan Sambrook out there. So it's been a lot of fun, you know, meeting players. It's so much more personal at the ECHL level. Like you would never get to do that at the NHL level, right? Like it's not like you're going to go there. I'm not going to go meet Pat Maroon after the game or whatever. You might sign a couple autographs, but it's not like that, to where like I got to sit there and you know, when I met Kyle Nuber for the first time, I was like, man, I was like, I'm just going to go, because I could sit here and talk your ear off about fights for like, you know, 2 days, right? So you know, we had a laugh about it, and you know, for talking before, and he signed a couple photos for me. So, you know, thank you to Kyle Nuber for doing that. And Nico Blatchman came on the podcast right after his first career game, or regular season game, I should say. Or well, I think he had one right before, or one the year before, but he came in and it was after his first career fight, his pro fight in regular season. So I got to have him on the show, and I'm hoping to have him on again in the off season. You know, I've talked with Nico here and there about certain stuff too. Every time he'd fight, I'd sit there and, you know, he'd want me to upload it because he wants to see how he could do better in the fight and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. And you know, Russell Jordan, I got to meet. Joe Pendenza, I got to meet, take a picture with. My wife was a big fan of his, so I was able to get his jersey for her. So it was a lot of fun in that aspect. The ECHL is so much more personal, and you get to meet these tough guys and talk with them more. Like I said, I got to talk with Nico, I got to talk with Kyle, and really kind of, I wouldn't say do a deep dive, because I don't want to sit. The deep dive is for the podcast. I'm hopefully saving all the good shit for the podcast here, but it's like, you know, I get to be more personal with them, I guess, if that makes sense. And I'm sure folks who are fans of other teams, it'll make sense to them as well. And I got to meet Travis Howe after a game. Actually, it was funny. He fought Nuber, and after the game, I went out and I met Travis Howe, and hopefully I'm going to get him on the show. We'll see how that goes. But that was a lot of fun too. Got to catch him after a game, take a picture with him. So it's been cool. And it was probably the most fun I've had at hockey games in a long time. It really has. You know, by the show, I love hockey. Hockey's my favorite sport, but excuse me, I also think it should be played a certain way, and there's certain aspects that have gone so far the other way in the game that it's really missing something that the NHL level just doesn't provide as much anymore. And the ECHL level kind of filled that void for quite a bit this year. And I'm not saying that every game was, it's like, oh my God, this is like right back into circa, ECHL 2002 or 99 or anything like that, where you got guys like Trevor Sen and Ken Tasker rolling around. Obviously, it's nothing like that. I don't think the game will ever see characters like that again, unfortunately. But there's a guy, Trevor Sen. You want to look up video game numbers. Anybody in Richmond out, if anybody listens, I think Richmond's got is it SPHL or FPHL team? One of the two. There's a guy, though. You look up Trevor Sen, look at his numbers. I posted a while back. I said, it just looks like fucking video game numbers, just putting up so many points and like 500 pims at the same time. Absolutely insane. You're not going to see that in hockey anymore. Well, obviously with the 10 fight rule, it's especially not happening. And I think that's a downfall to the ECHL. I think it's a little silly, especially at the ECHL level. It's no disrespect to the players. These are top tier athletes. If you're playing, I laugh at that too. Some people will shit talk ECHL players. Oh, you're only playing in the coast. Oh, fuck me. Yeah. Sorry. 2 steps below the NHL. Yeah. You're really bad at hockey. Like, shut the fuck up. It's so stupid. But in all, with all due respect, it's not like people aren't going to the ECHL to see the next Alexander Ovechkin, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that to be rude or disrespecting this player, because there's world-class talent. I think somebody in Toledo this year had a Michigan goal, and that was really cool to see. I got to see Alex Aliardi for the Everblades do some. I haven't seen dangles like that in a hot minute. It was cool. It's great to see. And the ECHL it's still got that physical aspect, and that's what I've enjoyed so much about it. It's kind of got that blend of everything. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still some flat games. Like there was a couple, it all depends on who's on the roster, of course, and who's in the lineup. Like there was a couple of games with Orlando, I'm like, holy shit, it's like watching Pong. But it all depends on what goes down. But the ECHL still has that kind of that spark where it's like that potential where at any moment something can kind of go down. It's not like the NHL. Like, man, you look the other night, and the Leafs had, Tom Wilson like ran a goalie. I don't think he did it intentionally, but I mean, if your goalie gets ran no matter what, you got to do something. Nobody did anything until like later on in that game, and it was it not McDermott? Who I think Clifford fought Wilson. It was kind of a nothing fight, but stuff like that, like like guys stood up for themselves a lot more, and guys stood up for their team a lot more in the ECHL, and they kind of brought that physical play in that game, and it was so enjoyable and refreshing to see. I haven't seen that in years, like I said. So I had so much fun going to these games, and it was a lot of fun seeing different tough guys come into town too. Like I said, you'd see Travis Howe, Anthony Collins, the Thrower brothers, seeing them come in, Nico Blatchman come back into town. So it was pretty cool to see those guys. There's definitely teams that you could tell which teams want the toughness and which teams don't want the toughness. So I think Florida did a decent job at providing it. There was a couple moments where I'm like, fuck, we had all this toughness here down in Florida, and then I know where the Everblades would just like trade a couple guys away, and it's like, what the fuck? and then bring more tougher guys back in. It's like, okay, well, it's like, I don't know if like they couldn't make up their mind, but they had Kyle Neuber all year, so obviously I gravitated towards Kyle Neuber. Nico Blatchman I latched onto right away, because once I heard he had 4 preseason fights, it was unreal. But I'm actually going to do a episode coming up here, maybe not next week, but the week after. I got to get John from the Hockey Fight League on, and we're going to kind of do a fun little episode of kind of the top 10 fights of the ECHL year. And I remember like the first night I was watching on Flow Sports when the Everblades were playing an away game, intermission came, and I was going to check some other games out. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, I think it was Wheeling and Cincinnati. It was like, holy shit. It was, the first period was over, but there was 3 fights in between the first period and the second period. So the whistles had already gone. The buzzer sounded for intermission, and sure as shit, there's 3 fights. This is my first time watching. I'm like, holy shit. And I messaged John, and I think I'm messaging John and Brian. I'm like, holy shit, like 3 fights, like one after another out here. And again, that doesn't need to happen every game. But just the fact that happens in the league, I think it's good for the game. I really do. And I know some people are going to disagree with that. Even some players might disagree with it. But at the same time, you look at, I did an episode on this not that long ago of does fighting grow the game of hockey? And I kind of did a little bit of analytics, if you will. Basically, I kind of like I asked around to a bunch of different groups, a bunch of different people on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I went through and pulled numbers from all the most popular hockey videos on the internet on YouTube, anyways. A lot of them were fights and hits, so people still enjoy it, and that still brings something to the game. Whether people like it or not, I think it is good for the game. Now, again, do I need to see like an LNH style line brawl, pregame brawl every Saturday night? No, that's not it at all. But that stuff still is good for the game, and the ECHL brought that this year. And it was so fun to see. And I think the ECHL will bring it every year, but it's going to get less and less. And I think that's why I kind of appreciated this season more and more as it went on, because, and again, some people might say this is good for the game. Some people might say it's bad, but the Kyle Newbers, the Anthony Collins, the Garrett Klotz, the Travis Howes, those guys are on their way out in terms of that playing style. You're just not going to see that anymore. Nico Blatchman was a needle in a haystack, because man, you don't find kids like that in junior anymore coming out and throwing down like that. I think he actually led the league in fights. Him and Dalton Thrower might be tied. Actually, I think Dalton Thrower just got his 10th fighting major last week, maybe. Actually, I think Nico still led the league with 11. Which is kind of funny. That's what I don't get with the ECHL, though. It's like you have this 10 fight rule, but the NHL doesn't have one. So if that's the feeder league you're trying to develop for, wouldn't you kind of want to adapt the same rules? But I did enjoy that the overtime was 7 minutes as opposed to 5. I'm not a big fan of 3-on-3 overtime. I prefer ties than go to a shootout. I've always hated, I thought shootouts were cool when I was younger. And then as the older I've gotten, I think shootouts are just kind of just gimmicky and stupid. So I'm not a big fan of them, but it is what it is. But yeah, so like it's like I got to see all these dudes, and it's kind of like the last of the Mohicans here, right? And it was cool to see these guys, throwing down and giving it their all. Like, I mean, Travis Howe, Kyle Newber threw down, I think 5 times this year, 4 or 5, and I was there for I think 2 or 3 of them. So that was a lot of fun getting to see that. Get to see Anthony Collins come and do his thing. And like I said, the Thrower brothers. I'm trying to think of anybody else of who I got to see. I was mad I missed Matthew Gagnon out in with Three Rivers or Trois Rivières out there. I was out in Utah during all my hunting trip for that one, but overall the ECHL has been such a breath of fresh air. And like I said, I think it's got the right blend of hockey that I like. It's got that, it's got the skill. It's a very big, I think, misunderstanding when it comes to me with hockey. Some people, you just like the fights, and yeah, I love the fights. I mean, it's what makes hockey unique. And obviously this is a fight focused podcast. You couldn't tell because obviously we just moved, but my walls would be decorated in fight photos, and I got some bobbleheads, and they're all tough guys and stuff. My jerseys I collect are tough guy jerseys. The Kurt Gogol jersey from the Florida Everblades. So yes, I'm a fight fan, but I'm still a hockey fan. It's not like I go there just to see fights. Now, if I went to an LNH game or something, well, yeah, I expect it at that point, but that league's in a world of its own, although it's completely docile compared to what it used to be. But I think the ECHL just gives that right blend of hockey. And I almost wonder, and I would like to ask somebody about this, kind of when I get another player on the podcast and see what they say. But I wonder if it's also because they only have one official on the ice. So they got 2 linesmen and 1 official. I think during playoffs, they go to 2 officials. I thought I read that somewhere. This will be my first year watching playoffs, so I'm curious to see how that goes. I think that starts this Friday. The Everblades play Greenville. That was another person. Sorry. I was just thinking off the top of my head, I got to meet Ed Hubbard out from Greenville, who I have we've traded jerseys, or I bought jersey from him. I think it was a Toporowski jersey from a while ago. I got to meet him. So that was pretty cool getting to meet him. Big jersey collector, and he's collected for years. I shouldn't say I've known him for years, but I've known of him, and talked back and forth, had back and forth with him in the jersey groups. So that was cool to meet him. But like I was saying, with the playoffs coming up, I think they go to 2 officials, but I wonder if that's why I know stuff gets missed because there's only 1 official. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen the Everblades get calls missed, and I've seen, teams take calls against them that got missed. Well, I shouldn't say take calls, but had stuff that probably should have been called against them. It's just the nature of the beast. Like I'm here for it. Like at the end of the day, am I an Everblades fan? Yes, but I just enjoy a good hockey game at the end of the day. Would it be nice to see the Everblades win? Yeah, absolutely. But and am I going to be like, am I the first one? Oh, go Everblades, go! I got to be, paint my face green and dye my hair blue or whatever. It's just not. It's not anything like that. I just watch. I just enjoy watching good hockey. And I had somebody ask me, oh, you're such a Nuber fanboy, and it was just because I was talking about the Steve Alexi thing, and I was like, no, I'm not a fan. I like Steve Alexi, as a matter of fact. There was a reason that whole thing happened with him and Nuber, but people kind of don't realize what goes into it. So, I got to see that kind of transpire and that parody go on for a few games, and that was fun. Like, you don't see that in the NHL. And to give kind of people a background of what happened with the Everblades and the Solar Bears. So, they've played each other multiple times in the season, being in the same division out in the out in the South. And Nuber tried to get Alexi to go multiple times throughout the season. Nuber did everything besides pull Alexi's gloves off. And Alexi and I saw somebody, he shouldn't have done that. Alexi's a former NHLer. And I get that. But at the same time, why should he get a pass because he played in the NHL? That doesn't give you a pass to, do whatever. And he took liberties on the Everblades. He ran guys, and then he also fought guys who weren't necessarily known as fighters. And I get it, Nuber towers over Alexi, but at the same time, if you're going to do it, you got to pay the price, right? So Nuber gave him ample times to go straight up multiple times, and like I said, did everything but pull his gloves off. I actually wanted to talk to Nuber about it at one of the fan club things before they even actually got into their fight. But I think somebody came up, and I was like, okay, well, let me not be the fucking nerd and just take up all this dude's time talking about fights like an asshole. But the thing that led up to that is, I got to see this parody transpire multiple games. So like I said, Nuber tried to get Alexi to go multiple times, and he doesn't. And then Alexi ends up fighting, was it Neville? It's either Neville or Masella. I think he might have fought both of them, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But he fought those two, and he doesn't go. And then Nuber again tries to get him to go multiple times, still doesn't. And finally, it was one game in Orlando. Alexi fought somebody. I think it was, like I said, it was either Neville or Masella in the first period. And at this point, I think Nuber had just fucking had enough because he was, trying to get Alexi to go multiple times. It just didn't happen. And Nuber comes off the bench, line change, goes straight after Alexi. There was one thing on Nuber's mind, and he went straight after him. I thought it was fucking great because that is, people won't like it, but that is enforcement 101. That is, if you're not going to do it, if you've asked a guy multiple times, you got to force the hand. And I know some people might not like it, but that's exactly what enforcement is. Everybody has made it out to be this whole, I'm sorry, I'm about to get off on a tangent here, but everybody's made it out to be this whole, oh, well, Nuber's bigger than Alexi, so he shouldn't be fighting. Alexi played in the NHL, so he shouldn't have to fight Nuber. Okay, well, then why is he fighting the other guys on the team? And two, people don't understand. And fighting in general, a weight class is only a thing in UFC and boxing. If you get in a street fight, there's no weight, weigh-ins or, height and weight shit going on. It's a hockey fight. Look at Ty Domi. How many guys did Ty Domi fight that he was so undersized? Did you see Probert asking Domi, well, oh no, I can't do it tonight, Ty. Yeah, I'm bigger than you. Sorry. You're not tall enough to ride this ride. It's not like that, man. It's a hockey fight. And so Alexi had taken liberties, and Nuber goes straight to him. And people, he jumped him, and that was so Bush League. He didn't even really jump him, if we're being honest. I'm going to go over it with John, and I'll play the clip, in a couple weeks here, if anybody even happens to tune back in. But, he didn't even really jump him. Yeah, he got him off the hop as far as taking the gloves off sooner, but he didn't really go like they both kind of went at the same time, but it was, he jumped him. How can he do that? Alexi played in the NHL. It's like, well, fuck, you're in the ECHL now, buddy. It doesn't matter if you played in the NHL. And mind you, and this is no disrespect to Alexi. I mean, congratulations to him for even making the NHL. I mean, that alone, like, again, I've always said, even making the ECHL is a feat in its own. It's the second best league in the world, let alone the AHL, and let alone the NHL. But it wasn't like he was an NHL regular. I think in total, in his NHL games played, he played half a season total. I think it was came out to 48 games, I checked. So it was just over maybe half a season. So it wasn't like Alexi was playing in the NHL for 10 years straight and just came down to the coast. It's not like that. But there is no size difference. And again, that was enforcement 101. That was fucking great. That's exactly what it's all about. And Nuber fed him, and the fight beforehand, everybody talks about showing respect in the code and blah blah blah. Alexi's over there hyping up the crowd, which, hey, I have no issue. I have zero issue with what Alexi did, by the way, because if that's a role to get under the team's skin and do that shit, fuck it, do it all day, every day. That's what I love about hockey. That's the shit I actually love, is seeing this kind of the tomfuckery, the game within the game. That's what makes it fun. It gives it parody. So Alexi, by all means, go do it. Like, fight. If you want to fight non-fighters, go ahead. Fuck it, dude. If nobody's going to stop you. But at the same time, it's going to catch up to you if you got another guy like a Kyle Nuber, a Travis Howe, a Garrett Klotz. It's going to catch up with you. It just does. And that night it did. And I will say this, after Nuber kind of fed him a little bit, you didn't see Alexi getting up and doing anything, and he didn't do anything the rest of the game to the Everblades. So was it, did it work? I believe so. And that's enforcement 101. And I've seen it even in the ECHL bashboard, and it's all around. It's even in the enforcer appreciation group I run. For those who don't know what that is, it's literally we got like 12,000 members. It's literally obviously what the title says, enforcer. Easy for you to say, enforcer appreciation. It's all about the tough guys and enforcers. That's what it's there for. And we try not to shit talk. I shouldn't say we try not to. We really don't. You'll never see me shit talk a pro athlete, because there's always reasons for why. Like, it's not like Nuber jumped him out of the blue, and there was a reason Alexi kind of had that coming to him. Now, again, do I fault Alexi for it? Maybe getting fed by Nuber. Sure, you could put him at fault, but at the same time, he had a role to play and he was doing it great. It just caught up to him. It's what happens, man. But even in there, you see that it's this whole thing misconstrued with the code, and everybody's got to agree to fight. Okay, well, good job, buddy. And I get that there's a mutual respect between players, but it's been so glorified into something that I think has been taken out of context now. Everybody thinks that the code only applies to a fight, but the code actually applies to much more than that. The code was broken by Alexi. I hate using the term the code, by Alexi, when he refused to fight Nuber and fought lesser fighters on the team. That's when the code was broken. So Nuber went out there, took matters into his own hands, as somebody should, and that'll teach you, hey, let's not play fucker out anymore. And that's what it's there for. You didn't see Probert or Domi or Dave Brown code. That's not even his fucking vocabulary. He didn't see these guys doing it. And back in the ECHL and back in the day, you hear like Pete Vandermeer, Trevor Sen, and Ken Tasker, guys like that. You don't see that shit. And it's like Trevor Gillies too. Even the fans out in South Carolina, fuck, when it was time to turn it on, Gillies was one of the scariest motherfuckers. He was like man, one of the nicest dudes off the ice. He has a great interview with Joe Lazito, like I mentioned before. But man, when it came time to throw the jersey on and get down to the nitty gritty, man, he was fucking tough and he was scary. And that's just the role that they play. And I know some people don't like it. And like I said, it's on its way out. So I really got to enjoy it this year with the ECHL. And again, that whole parody leading up to it, I got to see that. I haven't seen that in years. The whole parody, like I said, with the games with Orlando beforehand, leading up to the fight between Nuber and Alexi. And I had to watch it on TV. Actually, I think I was gone that night. I was pissed because I wanted to watch it because I had a feeling something was going to happen. With everything going on, that's one of those games I was like, okay, I'm excited to watch this. Or like the very last game with Jacksonville, I was like, oh my God, I'm excited to watch this. How and Nuber might go again. And sure as shit, they did. So it was, I haven't felt that way about hockey in years, and I didn't get to see that in the NHL. And when you go to a game knowing you're going to see, fast play, goals, hits, and fights, that's all you could ask for. And the ECHL absolutely delivered that. Now, again, is it perfect? No, there's some stuff where the 10 fight rule, I think I've harped on that enough plenty of times. And again, whether you think that's good or bad, that's up to you. But there's some other stuff like the instigator. I think you get an automatic one-game suspension. The instigator is such a weird rule because it's very much so like at the ref's discretion. Continuing an altercation is one of them, but I think typically that's also called the NHL. I don't mind that one. I don't think you get a misconduct for that, or excuse me, I don't think you get a suspension for that. I think you just get a 10-minute misconduct, which I'm fine with that. I've never liked the 2 minutes. Once that came in, I never liked the 2 minutes for removing the helmets. That was implemented by the NHL. and that trickled down to the AHL and ECHL. Although the ECHL, you can fight off the draw. So I thought that was great too. I got to see Neuber and Howe go at it off the draw. Neuber and Blatchman go at it off the draw. The AHL, you can't do that. You have, which is so stupid because you just delayed it by 5 seconds. It's like some of these rules are ridiculous. With the AHL one, it's like, okay, we'll drop the puck. Oh, let's skate up the ice for 3 seconds. And now let's go. It's like, well, you really curbed that one. Like, it's so stupid. But yeah, there's definitely things that the ECHL could, improve on. If they got rid of the 10 fight rule, I think it'd be better off. If we're being honest, if you want to put a fight rule in, okay, I think 10 is way too little. It should at least be 20, I think. And again, how many players are you really going to have today that fight over 20 times? I mean, if you're Nico Blatchman, sure, because Nico is just a crazy fucking lunatic and will fight anybody. Any Mike is like, who was that other guy? Robideau, Simon Robideau out with Kansas City. That was cool seeing him. Like, he hit 10 fights quick and then obviously stopped because he didn't want to get suspended. I think he might have gotten in one more. But there's definitely things I think the ECHL could improve on. But overall, as a whole, it was a breath of fresh air, like I said, and it was something special. And I'm super glad I got to be a part of the Everblades season and kind of build a relationship with a couple people out there and a couple players too. So hopefully, this opens up people's eyes that are listening to this. And I know some of the ECHL fans might not have, this isn't we're not talking about the power play of the Toledo Walleye or anything on this podcast. I probably should have said that off the hop, but it's been a lot of fun to see this revival of hockey for me. And I want this episode to kind of be, what's the right word? I guess like raise awareness for the league, if that makes sense, to people who might not watch the ECHL now. And they, because I see a lot of people who are tired of the NHL. And again, I'm right there with you. Now, don't get me wrong, the NHL has some of the most talented players. Well, they are the most talented players in the world. But in terms of the goals and stuff you see now, you wouldn't have seen that shit back in like the 80s and maybe even the 90s or whatever. But that physical side of it, man, games in the NHL are just so flat now. And the ECHL, like I said, it has flat games. No matter what, there's always going to be flat games in hockey. It's just the way it goes. But the ECHL, it brought back the chippiness and the post whistle shit and pregame scrums and shit like that, which I think it's all great for the game. I mean, that Howe and Blatchman video got like 2 million views or something like that. Not on YouTube, but as a whole on like Twitter and Facebook and stuff. It was ridiculous how much that blew up. So I think it's good for the game, and I hope people out there will actually watch the ECHL. I know a couple people asked me, how do you watch the games? I said, get Flow Sports, which Flow Sports is great too. It's a phenomenal package as far as like entertainment goes, because it does so much more than just hockey. It's only $150 for the year too, which really isn't bad considering all you get. You can go back and it's not just like one team. That's how I go back, check the box scores, and watch the fights from around the league that entire night of doing whatever. Was seeing Adirondack and Worcester or something going at it. You can watch any team you want. So people came up asking me, then I became the knowledgeable one, but what team should I watch? I said, okay, well, this team, and this team, they got this guy, this guy, this guy. So, and that's all because John and Brian were really telling me. Brian from the beginning of the season would be like, yeah, watch this team. They have this guy. And, it was cool. So I got to see kind of the last bit of these characters in the game, the tough guys. I know some people don't like it, and don't worry, it's on its way out. Give it another 2-3 years, and these guys will probably be out of the league. And it's unfortunate because I think there's a place in the game for guys like, the Newbers, the Howes, Blatchmans, all of that. I get it. I get why people don't like it though. I'm not blind to it. So, but it'll be out of the game. So don't worry. But anyways, I think that'll about do it. I think that pretty much covers it. I'm looking forward to watching the ECHL playoffs this year. Hopefully we could see the Everblades, win the Kelly Cup. But overall, honestly, like I did with the NHL, whatever team has a tough guy on it, like, a legitimate tough guy, that's the team I really want to win the cup. So if the Everblades get eliminated or whatever, next team with a tough guy on it, that's who I want to win. So we'll see what happens, but I'm excited to watch it. I had such an enjoyable time watching the Everblades this year and the ECHL as a whole. It's been so much fun, and I'll continue to watch it throughout the throughout the coming years until maybe hopefully it doesn't go the way of the NHL and they kind of let shit go all the time still. So we'll see what happens. But hopefully this, some fans agree with me. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. Hopefully you don't motherfuck me or anything. If you want to call me an idiot, I guess I'm an idiot then, but it is what it is. So but anyways, guys, I'll leave it at that. I appreciate everybody for tuning in and kind of giving giving the ECHL year in review type episode. I got some good episodes lined up. Like I said, I think next week I'll do the old jersey retirement of tough guys is what I'm going to kind of talk about, of which tough guys should be there, or excuse me, which tough guys should have their numbers retired out for said teams. I don't mean should, it's all kind of hypothetical, but like, which ones make sense, right? And then the week after that, actually, the week after that, I might be interviewing an ECHL player. We'll see how that goes. That's something too. I've got to interview some great players and kind of talk privately with some players back and forth on, Twitter or Instagram. And I think they enjoy me uploading the fights too. So it's been a lot of fun. But I'll hopefully be interviewing an ECHL tough guy, not this weekend, but next weekend. We got it lined up. So he's got to travel back to his family and, get all settled in there because his season's over. So definitely give him time to settle in, and who are who you are if you're listening. So hopefully you get safe travels back, and I'm really looking forward to getting you on the pod, man. I never like to announce guests until I actually get them on. Now, of course, obviously I mentioned Nuber and Howe because I've kind of met them, and that's a little bit different. But like just kind of messaging guys, even it's not even a for sure thing. I'm going to get them on. Hopefully they do. I'd love to have both of them on. I don't know how good of friends they are or anything, because some of these guys are friends off the ice. It'd be cool to kind of get get them both on at the same time. That'd be a lot of fun. Excuse me. But yeah, hopefully everybody enjoyed this episode. And like I said, I apologize. I've been crazy busy with moving. I've obviously big move to North Carolina. It's not like we were just moving across the street. Work's been busy. It's just me and another guy up here running the office. So we got, we're covering like 5 different cities. And so I've had to get up pretty early and some late nights going on. First week, I think one of the days I didn't get back, I got up at like 6. I didn't get back till like 8:00 at night. So that was a lot of fun. But been pretty busy. If you want to follow the podcast, I encourage you to follow it. It is just 5 for Fighting Podcast. If you search on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it'll come up, and just give it a follow, give it a like, thumbs up, whatever the case is. Please rate and review the show. It really helps the podcast grow, whether it's on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, whatever platform you're on. If you could please rate and review the show. I know ratings just came out recently, for reviews, for Spotify. I think we finally hit the 10 review mark on there, but please review the show and rate it. It helps the podcast grow and come up when people type in hockey podcast or something like that. So it'll really help everything. And hopefully we get the show a little bit bigger. Like I said, I'm trying to do these video uploads more, and, we can kind of see what goes on and how big this thing can get. So hopefully if down the line I get a more professional setup than just this fucking webcam up here. But other than that, guys, I will get out of your hair. Hopefully you enjoyed the year in review of the ECHL episode. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Hope to catch you at the next episode, and have a good one, guys.